Hi beautiful people, hello, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Lilian Shiro. I trained as a nurse in Kenya and I apparently work in the UK as a nurse in a care home. So in today's video, I'm gonna tell you, or I'm gonna cover the major difference between OET and IELTS that is done by nurses who come to work in UK. And also I'll be covering a few tips in general which may help you to prepare for your exam. So before I continue, I would like to say that I'm not a marker, neither am I an examiner. So these are just a few tips that have worked for me, that helped me, and that I know have helped other people or that I've come across. So guys, stay tuned to the end of this video and I hope they'll help you. If you like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and if you've not subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe to my channel, and I will really appreciate your support. So let's get into it. I'll start by mentioning the difference between IELTS and OET. And I'll start by saying IELTS, it is International English Language Testing System. And OET, it is Occupational English Test. So just the way they sound, it's just the way they are. So IELTS, it's basically academic. It's accepted all over in the world. Most people who are going to school abroad, you want to do your studies abroad, you provide IELTS. And those other people who are basically like in nursing profession or in any medicine profession, starting with nursing or dentist or physiotherapist or dietitian, they do OET. And this is to why? Because OET, it's Occupational English Test. So it's basically based on the occupation or the profession that you are doing. Like now you're a nurse, so your OET or your exam will be asking you questions about nursing. It won't ask you questions about dentists or doctors, or unless if at all you have to deal with a doctor. So guys, that's the major difference. So the other thing guys that you should know is that OET, it's more expensive than IELTS. So OET is 587 Australian dollars, and if you convert into pounds, that will be 320 pounds, whereas IELTS, it's 170 only pounds. So guys, you see, that's why IELTS, it's a big deal. So I'll just give an overview, or I'll just go through a few examples on the categories, and I'll start with reading. When you're doing IELTS, you do passages and then you answer questions based on those passages that you've been given. These passages, they are more complex, they are so academical if you ask me, and they are so scientific. Yeah, and then when it comes to OET, they are very simple and short text. That's the way they are called. So we have text A, B, C, and D, and then you will answer questions based on those texts that you've been given there. What do these texts contain? They contain blood tests, or a certain condition, or a certain procedure, or something that a patient should know. Like, it's all based on medicine. Okay, so it would be very easy to go through and these text because they are very short. They are not as long as the IELTS passages. They are shorter, and yeah, they are shorter. So, and when we come to writing, IELTS writing, you're expected to do or to describe a graph. Could be a bar graph, could be a pie chart, could be a line graph. Yeah, and you're supposed to explain that. That is in section A or part 1 of the writing category. Or you're expected to do, and you're expected to write an essay in part 2 of writing in IELTS. And this part 2, you're supposed to answer a question. For example, would ask you, or they would say, technology has taken over the world. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So you're supposed to answer that question. That is IELTS part 2, where you're supposed to write an essay. Whereas in OET, it will be a referral letter or a discharge letter. That's what you're supposed to write. So how are you supposed to write this letter? You'll be given a story or a history of a patient whom you've been managing, and the patient is ready to be discharged either to a care home or either to their home or maybe to another hospital. So this way, because you have their notes, you have their information, you're the one who has been taking care of them as a nurse, of course, you're supposed to write this referral letter saying what you've done and what is supposed to be done and until when it's supposed to be done. So you will follow what has been written for you there in the question, and then you'll be, you know, of course, as a nurse, how you're supposed to write a discharge letter. You're not supposed to miss anything, because once you miss something from the discharge letter, then there'll be some mismanagement of the patient. So yeah, that's what you're supposed to do in writing. And then when it comes to listening, when you come to IELTS, actually IELTS listening was so easy. When it comes to OET listening, it's a bit tricky. Yeah, it's a bit tricky, but most of the time it's only that in IELTS you'll be listening to maybe a researcher who is talking to a community, to a member of the community where they are doing research from. Or it will be a student in a class talking to a teacher or talking to other members of the class. But in OET, it will be a patient. You'll be listening to a patient and a doctor. And that's what you're gonna answer. And you have to be very keen, because most of these questions you read as you answer. So that is OET. And IELTS, I've said, most of us, we know about IELTS listening. It's you will hear two people either discussing something, or you will hear more than two people, like you will hear more than one student they are discussing, or you hear a researcher talking to the members of the community. That is IELTS listening, and then you're supposed to answer the questions from that. In OET, it will be a patient talking to a doctor, and that's your listening test, and you'll be answering questions regarding on what you've heard them talk about. And then the questions, of course, will guide you. There will be sentence completion, like what age is this patient supposed to? You will have heard. Yeah, and then when you come to speaking, it's the same, guys. Speaking, it's more of academical in IELTS, or just how to express yourself in general, you know. Whereas in OET speaking, it will be you as a nurse, you are talking to a patient. A good example would be someone brought their child to the clinic and the child had a cut, or maybe the child had burn. So how are you supposed to explain to them what you're going to do, and after that what are they supposed to do? That's the way speaking is like. So you'll be given a cue card where you read what is this, what's the scenario, like the child has been brought, blah blah blah, and then this happened, and then you're supposed to explain to the mother, and you're supposed to say what you are doing. You are supposed to reassure them, like they want to see you have that capability of communicating with the patient. You have the capability of reassuring your patient. That's what they want to hear, that's what they want to see. And then after that, after the treatment, have you given them the good guidance on how, or maybe like a follow-up, if it's a dressing, when are they supposed to be coming back for the dressing, or are they supposed to find nearest clinic to their place where they'll be going for the dressing, or what, you know? So they just want to see, are you able to communicate to your patient? Are you able to deliver the information that is expected? That is speaking for OET. So yeah, yes guys, so those are some of the differences. Now, I said I'll cover a few general tips on how to pass, or how to prepare, or how to get ready for your exam. Despite being IELTS or OET or any other exam you are doing in the world, an exam is an exam. An exam is an exam, and an exam is getting ready, and you're supposed to practice. So IELTS, you're supposed to practice. OET, you're supposed to practice. Any other exam, you're supposed to practice. So guys, so tip number 1 is practice, a lot of practice. Tip number 2, you can find a study buddy. Like myself, when I was getting ready for my IELTS, or when I was preparing for my IELTS, I had a friend whom we were doing studies together, and mostly she was so good with reading. And so with reading, she would time me, or we would do the test, and then we would time ourselves and see how fast we can be, because IELTS time matters, really matters with time when it comes to IELTS. So we could do that. And again, when we are doing, like for example, speaking, the same thing. Your friend can listen to you, you can listen to them, you can do some correction here and there, yeah, you know. So having a study buddy, it's something which is good. Okay. The other tip, there are people who normally do trainings, and here guys, you have to be very careful, because you don't know who is giving the correct training, you don't know where they came from, or you don't know whether they are certified or not. But there's only one way to confirm or know whether they are giving the correct information. Now, having a class, or going to a class where there are other students, or there are other people who are getting ready for the same exam that you are getting ready for, like IELTS. These classes, because I have attended one myself, there are other students in that class, and you are like in an exam room. It's so good, because you'll be doing those test papers for the reading, you do writing, so your trainer will be marking for you, you'll be evaluating yourself, you'll be seeing where you are and stuff, you know. And then because you're many, you are competing against one another. Thus it's all been like, who got this, who got that, you know. You are inspired, you get inspired when you get to learn with other students, and it gives you that morale. So it's good if you find a good trainer, and for you to know that you're using the correct IELTS materials or OET materials, you have to, IELTS is owned by IDP. So IDP owns IELTS. So if the materials, they have the logo for IDP, that is the correct material. Another material, it's Cambridge, British Cambridge. So they provide IELTS, so you will know this is the correct material as well. And another thing, guys, don't look further. There are other materials that once you register for your, or once you book your exam for IELTS, the British Council, they usually give you the materials. Even if you've done it online, You can phone them and ask them how you can collect for the reading materials, because I know when we were doing IELTS, the materials were being provided by the British Council. I've said, guys, when you go to those training centers, you will see the materials which have been provided, whether it's British Cambridge or this IDP logo. You will get to know that they are the correct materials. So that is tip number 3. Tip number 4. Tip number 4, there are so many people online who provide these courses, and when you enroll with them, guys, they'll be giving you the mocks exam, and then they'll be marking for you. So every time you do it, you'll be evaluating yourself regarding on the marks that you got from the previous mock, and then this teacher will be able to tell you, did you get to manage, or have you achieved, are you ready for your exam or not? Like, they'll guide you. So it's a good thing to, you know, to use those online teachers. So tip number 5, there are several people on YouTube who have the channels for the English languages. I also the OET, and the ones that I used, maybe I can mention, you never know, they might help you. And I would say with the IELTS reading, I would follow Jay from E2 language, and IELTS writing, I would follow IELTS with Liz, that is for writing. She's so good, she explains very well. Listening, again, I could use either Liz or Jay from E2 language. Speaking, I wouldn't say I used anyone, but you can just get a few, because I'm happy I was so fluent with my English even back then, and then even being so creative. I would say you can see who really explains, to just give you an overview of how you should do the speaking, or how you should approach speaking test. But speaking test, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a study buddy, it would really help you, because you can speak, you can get a certain topic, you know what is expected of you. You're supposed to explain about a certain place or a hobby or weather, anything like in general. So if you have a study buddy, it would really help you. That is speaking. Again, you can record yourself. You can even go to the bathroom, use the mirror, talk to the mirror, talk to yourself, talk to yourself and evaluate yourself and see whether you're doing a good job or not. So yeah, let me just do a recap and see whether there's anything I've missed. Tip number 1, I've said is to practice. Tip number 2 is I said is to have a study buddy, someone to help you study if at all you are doing the same test. Tip number 3, I said you can enroll in a class with a trainer. You can go, you can study together with other students, and you can have someone who is examining you, who is giving you the mocks, and make sure they're using the correct materials. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4 was to enroll in an online course like Swoosh English, and there's also E2 language, they have courses, And then tip number 5, I've said you can use the YouTube itself. There are so many people providing IELTS and OET training, and I've given you an example of those people whom I used, and that is for reading IELTS you can use Jay from E2 language. For writing you can use IELTS with Liz. For listening you can use Jay from E2 language. For speaking you can use either, or you can check any other YouTube trainer or YouTube teacher whom you feel they are really giving you the correct approach towards your exam. That is for speaking, because I didn't use any there. It's just to have an overview and just to make sure you have the fluency, you are fluent in your communication, and also practicing by yourself in the bathroom, using the mirror. You can talk to yourself. You can use your phone, record yourself and listen to yourself. Okay. So in case you have done this exam, either OET or you've done IELTS, and you have more tips that you'd like to add, please feel free to comment below. And in case you have further questions, feel free again to comment below. I'll go through those comments and I'll be able to get back to you guys. So thank you so much. If you've made this far, I'll be leaving the video that I did previously, that I had mentioned an overview of the score that is expected in IELTS, which I said it's an overall of band 7, and in every category you need to have a band 7 apart from writing. So reading 7, writing 6.5, listening 7, and speaking 7. That is for IELTS. Then OET, we said it's overall of B, and in all categories you should have a score of B. And then I'll be able to attach a photo somewhere here and to show how the numerical marking or the numerical score of OET matches with IELTS. And this answers the question that people do ask, most people do ask, is OET more easier than IELTS? What do you think, guys? Now, this is the answer: no. Why OET people think it's like easier than IELTS? It's because it's based on your profession. If you're a nurse, it will be asking you questions of nursing. You have knowledge about nursing. Whereas IELTS, it's so complex, it's so diverse, it's so scientific, it's not so academical. That's why IELTS would be harder, or more difficult than OET. So I hope I've answered your question. So OET is not easier than IELTS. It's just because OET, it's professional based, it's occupational based. Most people think it's easier than IELTS. This numerical score of OET that matches the IELTS score. And maybe I can read them for you. If you have an A in OET, means you have a score, numerical score between 450 and 500. And it's equivalent to IELTS, that is band score 8 to 9. Okay? If you have a score of B in OET, the numerical score is 350 to 440. That is score B for OET, and it's equivalent to IELTS band score 7 to 7.5. And then we have C plus for OET. The numerical score for C plus is between 300 and 340. That is C plus for OET. And when you come to IELTS, it's 6.5. All right. And then when you have C in OET, it's between 200 and 290. That is score C in OET. And then in IELTS, you would have scored 5.5 to 6.0. All right. And then in OET, we have a numerical score between 100 and 190, which is score D. And it's in IELTS, it will be less than 5.5. And then a score of E in OET, which is from 0 to 90 numerically, or in numerical. So when you have an E in OET, that means you have scored less than 5.5 in IELTS. So guys, you see, there's a matching table here for the IELTS and showing the scores. Yeah, I don't know whether you can see. I'm not sure whether you can see that, but I don't know whether you can see that, but I'll try and attach the photo. So guys, if you've made this far, I really appreciate, and if you like this video again, remember to give it a like, and remember to subscribe to my channel if at all you've not subscribed. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I'll be attaching some of this information about the tips. I'll put them in the description about the people that I've used, or the materials that you should use for your IELTS or OET. I'll leave them in the description below. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you in my other video. Mwah. And OET, it is occupational English therapy, just the way they therapy.